What's, Good afternoon. My name is Wayne O'Brien. I'm here in Toronto, Canada. Very pleased and honored to be given an overall view as to what WRAP is. WRAP, it's an acronym that stands for Wellness Recovery Action Plan. It's a self-designed and preventative wellness tool that anyone can use to feel better, get better, and stay better for long periods of time. WRAP started in 1997 after a group of individuals in north of Vermont that had challenges with their mental health issues and also the medical care system in trying to get better. Months, years, they could not. But together, they created what is now known as WRAP. It was led by Dr. Mary Ellen Copeland, and in the last 22 years, it's now helped a lot of people in pretty well all the US states and in several countries, and I'm glad it's here in Toronto, Canada, because it's made a huge difference since I first did one 5 years ago. It's really allowed me to enrich my wellness and have just a healthier outlook on life and to make wellness the priority what it needs to be. Okay, so just a quick overall view of WRAP. There's the first one, there's kind of 5 parts. There's the 5 key concepts. The second one is the Wellness Toolbox. The next one is the Wellness Recovery Action Plan itself, which has 6 different parts. The fourth part is Recovery Tools, which we won't get into for the sake of time today. So I'm going to start with this first part. There's 5, so I'm using my hand because of the 5 concepts. Okay, so it's hope, personal responsibility, education, self-advocacy, and support. So a little bit about hope. So hope is the belief that you can get better tomorrow, that things will be better next week, next month, and that there really is no limit as to how well you can be. So this approach differs quite a bit to before the 1990s, when the medical system was actually telling people there is no hope. Okay, that's been proven to be wrong, but getting that message was very detrimental, very actually hurtful to a lot of individuals, including myself. Next is personal responsibility. That is taking responsibility for your own wellness. For me, I was very responsible for others, but I was not. I was irresponsible for my own wellness. And again, it wasn't until coming into wellness that I even thought about it and I made it a priority. It's research has shown that if you're in charge of your own wellness, you're much, much more likely to have the wellness that you need and that you deserve. Next is education. Education is getting educated as much as is reasonably possible through the internet, through perhaps TED Talks, through your medical doctor, through friends, about things that are important to you, things that are essential for your own wellness. So we're in an age where we have a lot more access to more than we've ever had, so that certainly allows my wellness to be better than it otherwise would be. The next is self-advocacy. This is probably my favorite concept. Again, this is something I used to advocate for others. I never advocated for myself. It was in this first WRAP, as with many people that take a WRAP, where they're introduced to the personal Bill of Rights, and I realized, wow, there's a lot of rights that we have, something I never even thought of, never considered. And so for me, it's important to advocate, whether it be with my partner, with my boss, on things that are connected with my wellness, and certainly with any medical care provider. I know my medical visit sometimes would be only 5 or 10 minutes, but I would advocate, if I had 3 or 4 questions, I wanted them answered. I wanted at least my 15 minutes. I wanted it to be heard. The next is support. For WRAP, it's believed that you should have 5, at least 5 supports, because most people might have written just 1 or 2, and perhaps 2 or 3 months later, when they need some help, whether it be in a crisis or they just need some support, those 1 or 2 may not be available or be there. So these supporters, again, a minimum of 5, they could be friends, family, individuals, could be your medical doctor, or it could be a counselor, people that believe in you, trust in you. Hopefully, if you have the capacity, you can be a support for other people, so it can be reciprocal, because that certainly helps as well. So again, the 5 key concepts, they're integrated throughout all the RAP. They're essential. This is something that Mary Ellen devised on her own about 10 years before RAP came in. So the 5, again, hope, personal responsibility, education, self-advocacy, and support. The next part is the wellness toolbox. For me, it's like the foundation, because everything in this toolbox, everything on this list, you'll be using throughout the 6 sections of your RAP. So for me, or sorry, for any, it's a list of several things. I have about 40. Dr. Mary Ellen Copeland, she had about 6. Now she has over 80 over the years. So mine has increased from learning from other wellness tools. So these are things that I enjoy doing. They make me feel better, and they're really enrich my wellness. And so it's an exhaustive list for me of things that I really enjoy doing. And I realize that there's certain things on my list that probably others may not have on their list, and vice versa, because it is personalized. Okay, I'm a visual person, so I have my own toolbox, which I've always been a fan of Spider-Man. For me, this reminds me of Wayne's Web of Wellness. And it's just something that helps me prioritize my own wellness. I'd like to share just some of them here. Remember, my sister-in-law gave me this about 4 years ago. She knew I'd worked for 12 years in finance, accounting, and I'm a very creative person. I love art, I like drawing, but I had never spent a single minute drawing. And so for me, it's important to keep this on my list of wellness tools. I enjoy it, especially in a group, but also even on my own. It's fun, it's rewarding, it makes me feel well. One of the most important ones is, for me, this is RAP, all on one page. And this is important. It's a living document, it evolves throughout, but I have that. I play squash, again, just a reminder of the importance of playing squash. Like, I love playing squash on good days or bad days, and having that routine really helps me. And I live close to the YMCA, so I can actually play squash within hours because I've got some friends that are quite flexible. This is something, I'm a light-humored person, so this reminds me of kind of like meditation, but also some martial arts and stretching and exercising. So it's kind of a few things in one, things that are on my wellness list. Several things here, just my last one before I close this one here. This for me is just a healthy snack. It's something, if I'm hungry, rather than ratio to something that might not be good for my wellness, this I have. Again, this is more visual, like almost like a vision board, but it really makes the list that I have concrete, and I can see it. Okay, so again, with the wellness toolbox, those wellness tools that you enjoy doing, you'll be using throughout the next, throughout your RAP plan. So with the RAP, you have 6 sections here. The first one is the daily maintenance plan. With the daily maintenance, there's 3 questions that are asked. So each question is a list. The first question is asking you to put a list of words as to what you're like when you're feeling well. Again, that can vary from person to person. For me, I'm jovial, I'm positive, I'm optimistic, easygoing, I'm calm. Those are my lists. And so I have actually about 25 words that describe me. And so if I'm having a bad day and I look at that list, I realize it's almost a measuring stick that I'm not well. It allows me to realize that this is what I'm like now. That's a list when I'm well. Second question is listing things that you need to do. You know you need to do them almost every day to ensure that you have wellness and ensure that things are okay. Because chances are that if you're having a bad day, you probably have not done those things that are essential. So for me, I have about 12 things. I'll share 3 or 4. One of them, I just make the bed every day. It's a habit I've had a few months after starting my first RAP 5 years ago, and that's made a big difference. You know, it was a bit awkward. It took me a few weeks to get into the habit, but it's important. At the end of the day, again, started this about 4 years ago, I list 3 things that I'm grateful for that day. So it's my gratitude journal. It's very simple. It takes me 1 minute to do. And I enjoy doing that, and I enjoy just reading that list. So other things, just eating 3 healthy meals. For me, it's important to have 2 salads every day. And that's a habit I've had now for a year, but it's important to eat healthy to ensure the wellness. Again, so exercise, like I usually ensure that I'll walk for at least 20, 30 minutes if I park a couple walks away, either walk there. If I'm not exercising elsewhere, it's important to have the exercise. And last is just like meditation, just to meditate 20 minutes, do that in the morning, once at night. That really helps. The next section is triggers. Triggers are external events. These are things that cause you to be upset, to be disturbed, that your wellness is compromised. But they're external. So for me, some things that will trigger me would be actually negativity. If there's excessive negativity or a lot of sensational news or even profanity, I'm triggered. I'm not myself. Something I've been triggered, I think, since a very young person, just being in a crowded shopping mall. Like, shopping is certainly not one of my wellness tools, but just being in a busy shopping mall, I'm just not myself. So it's important to really list them, and when they happen, we can identify, oh, I'm being triggered, okay? Because in this section, we want it then, which is important, it's the trigger action plan, what to do. And for the most part, we're just going to reach into one of our wellness tools. That has worked for me and all the time. Some of them are quite specific, you know, if there's like being in a noisy coffee shop or there's a lot of, again, profanity or negativity, for me, the action for me is to remove myself, to go to a different part, or to leave the cafe altogether. So some of them are specific, but they are all connected with doing things that allow us to be well, the things that we enjoy. Like, I enjoy quiet space. The next section is the early warning signs. These are internal. Could be some anxiety. It could be a little bit of, you know, maybe dissociating. You're just not yourself. It could be like a headache is a classic one, or even just having hunger. Sometimes I forget to eat on time, but for me, it's the hunger. It's a sign that, wow, I need something to be healthy, to be well. So here we have, again, the early warning signs, the action plan, what to do. So again, usually they will be connected with our wellness tools. So for me, it's calling a friend. Sometimes it's maybe just doing some deep breathing. Sometimes it might be healthy distraction, like watching an inspirational or touching, like a TED Talk, you know, just something to see if I can get grounded, to be myself. The next one, which to me is probably the most important in my life, it's when things are breaking down. Because this is when things have escalated. This is when I'm in a difficult situation. Things are not well, okay? So of course, in creating the list, you do this when you are well, when you're rational, when you can think it through. So signs for me that things are breaking down, if I haven't done my dishes in 2 or 3 days. If I'm really negative, you know, which is out of character for me, if I'm perhaps driving kind of carelessly, you know, I'm just not myself. If I haven't been sleeping for a couple of days properly. So here I'm going to have the early warning signs, or sorry, when things are breaking down, I'm going to have the action plan, you know, because if I want to be able to identify and then go to the action plan. This is what I need to do. I need to rest. I need, since it's escalated more, for me it's called there's a warm line, there's a distress line, there's certain supporters that are there quite often for me to call whenever I need, especially when things are breaking down. Because for me, or anyone, it's important that this not escalate into a crisis, because it's here that I've got control, that I can do things. I can use my wellness tools. I've learned that for me that there's certain things that used to be when things are breaking down, but they're now a small trigger. They're less relevant. I know for some people that one thing for me could be a crisis for them, okay? Or even me, there's a couple of things that were kind of crisis mode, but now since I've done practicing it now for over 5 years, I'm able to make it into this category of when things are breaking down, because I've got control. I can do something with it. So the action plan is really important with this as with the previous ones. The next one is the crisis. So the crisis is unique, unlike the 4 earlier sections to your RAP plan. A crisis is something, again, you write down, but you're going to share that with others, because when you're in a crisis, you need other people to support you, to take care of you, because you don't have the right mind space or physical means to do that, and that's why it's a crisis. So there's 9 parts to a crisis. I'll quickly go through them. The first one, it's a list of things I'm like when I'm well. Exact same question that we had in the daily maintenance plan. So in here, so I will indicate, like I'm easygoing, jovial, optimistic, positive. That's me in the norm. The next one is like signs that there is a crisis. For me, there's been a couple of times where I've had some suicidal thoughts. Like for me, that's a huge red flag. I know there is a crisis. There's something I need help. Signs that, if I haven't slept in 4 or 5 days, something quite serious, which is really having impact. When I'm really risk-taking, perhaps resorting to alcohol, like in levels I've never done before, something very unprecedented. For me, those are signs, and again, people have different signs as to when they're in a crisis. Next is just supporters. Again, these are the 5 supporters. It's important for people to indicate, their name, the connection, perhaps friend, family, but also connection, like, are they in the medical field, or are they in the financial field, or are they just a peer support? The connection and their phone number and email address, because it is your supporters, these 5 supporters, that you will have seen this part of the plan, and hopefully one person will maybe coordinate with the other ones to make sure all are aware that you're in a crisis. The 4th one is medication and healthcare. So this is listing medications. For me, there's a couple of medications. They've helped me in the past, especially when things are very serious. There's one medication I haven't had in 10 years. I had some adverse side effects. Yeah, so I list that this is a med I don't want. So in this section, I will indicate perhaps the pharmacy, but also my healthcare providers, their name, their phone number. So for me, it's my family physician, her phone number, but also a counselor, just somebody who wants to be aware that if I'm in a crisis. Next is treatment. So this is the types of treatment I would like to have if I'm in a crisis. Like for me, ideally, if one of my supporters can take me away for a couple of days, that may be all I need while in the support. Next is home care, community care, and that is like there are places in Toronto that you can go which has certainly services that are very safe, but services if need be that you can, psychiatric nurses, or more like for you, what's really helped in my life is peer supporters. Like they're there, they're very respectful, and they're familiar, which helps a lot. That's where I learned to do my rap, but they're familiar with the rap, they're familiar with it, and it really helps when I'm in the crisis. Next we have is the treatment facilities. For me, there's a couple of hospitals I really, really like. There's one hospital I've had a bad experience, and a few others I've had. So I indicate these are the 2 hospitals. If there's an option, and if I need to be hospitalized, this is where I would like to be. And indicate the hospital, if there's an option, please do not let me go to this hospital. Next is, I guess, helpers. These are people, not so much supporters, but people. I have a cat, so I would like to have somebody take my cat, ideally for a few days or a few weeks if necessary. I have some plants, somebody who can water the plants, and I have a couple of backups. So again, I have their names, phone numbers, email addresses that people can contact, and there's a backup. Because for me, it really increases any stress that I have, because I'm in a crisis, I'm not myself. And the last one is simply looking at when is it time to inactivate this crisis plan? When am I able to take care of myself? Next, in the final section is the post-crisis. This is something I wish I knew back in the 1990s. I know I was in a hospital once for several weeks, and when I went home, people thought it was well, but it was probably a time I really, really needed support because I was vulnerable, I was weak, I was fortunate and lucky, I think, to not have relapsed back into the crisis. Yeah, so in the post-crisis, it's kind of listing some basic questions. Who can drive me home from the hospital? Who can maybe let me stay with them for 2 or 3 days? Who can perhaps provide some food for a few days? You know, some options, you know, who can perhaps take me to a movie? Because it may take a few days, a few weeks to really get over the crisis, because I will still be vulnerable. So the post-crisis really allows me to really ensure that I don't relapse back into a crisis, because it's tougher. Some serious things can happen, adverse things. And also in the post-crisis, at the end, it's a time for me to thank those who have been there and to really appreciate and, you know, show my gratitude for what they've done. That is RAP in a nutshell. Again, it's through the 8 to 12 week process that you really go through a lot of these topics, and it's really enriching. It's made a huge difference in my life. As I say to others, it's a gateway to wellness. It's a gateway to help you happier and more fulfilling life. Thank you. I hope it's helped. It will help you as much as it's helped me.